Welcome back to the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Today is going to be a little bit different. I don't have a guest I'm interviewing. I am the guest. You are going to get to listen into a podcast that I was interviewed for called The Podcast Cafe. And we are talking about how I began podcasting. So it feels a little meta, but I hope you enjoy it. Something different for a change. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Your dream is to become a parent. My dream is to help you get there. I'm Rebecca Gruenspan, an adoptive mom who's guided over 500 families through the beauty and complexity of adoption. Through my work with families and professionals across the country, I've seen what actually moves people forward and what holds them back. Each week, I bring you practical advice, expert voices from all sides of adoption, and the positivity you need to navigate your journey with clarity, confidence, and trust. Let's get into it. Hey, real quick, if you're listening to this podcast because you're seriously considering adoption, you don't have to figure this out alone. At RG Adoption Consulting, my team and I guide hopeful families through every step of the adoption process using our proven 4-step roadmap. In 2025, 62% of our families brought their baby home within 12 months. If that sounds like something you're ready for, we'll help you figure out your next best steps. Book a complimentary adoption strategy session at rgadoptionconsulting.com.
Hey, Rebecca, welcome into the Podcast Cafe. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here.
We're going to be talking all about the Adoption Roadmap podcast and how you got into this world of adoption. But before we get into that, we have to set the tone with what is your favorite go-to coffee order?
Okay, so this is going to be really weird and probably off the beaten path, but lately I have this instant coffee that I love. It's actually an Israeli brand called Elite, and it's so expensive, but I've been drinking that with a little bit of cream in it, boiling water and pouring it in. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Okay, I love that. I remember during the pandemic, there was that big phase of everyone doing the shaken coffee. Do you remember
Oh,
this? It
really?
was like with
No, I didn't
instant
do that.
coffee, and you would shake it and it'd become all foamy and
Oh,
really delish. It was like took over the internet during 2020, so you might have to try
no.
that out.
And we're recording in the summer, so a lot of times I'll get a huge glass of ice and just do it
Yeah,
in there.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, I love that. I love that. So, like I said, we're here to talk about your podcast, the Adoption Roadmap podcast, which is such an interesting industry. So, we've been working together for a little bit now, and
hmm
before I started working on your show, I didn't know much about adoption and adoption stories. I have a few
Do
friends
you
that,
now?
yeah, I know
Okay,
a lot
good.
more.
For
And it's
sure.
like opened my eyes up to this whole world and all these
Mm.
stories, and it's really cool. So I want to hear your backstory of how you decided to start the podcast.
I'll set the stage.
Yeah.
My sisters always say to me, Becca, you ask way too many questions. People don't want to answer all those questions. And I would say to them, then they won't
Hmm.
if they don't. And so I laugh now, and I always joke with them that, see, I put all that question asking to good use. I was just supposed to be a podcaster this whole time.
It's so funny.
So I'm naturally curious, and I love talking to anyone and everyone, but I've always hated surface talk. I'm only interested in talking to people if I can get under the superficial
Hmm.
layer. Other than that, I'm really not a great small talker.
Yeah. So when you started your business, had you already adopted your son?
Yes.
And is that how you got into the world of adoption because you experienced it yourself?
Absolutely. And I went through a consultant.
Mm,
That's what I am today, an adoption consultant. And after I got through the adoption journey, the phase of bringing, from starting to bringing my baby home, I was in my early 40s, living in Chicago, single, and I kind of became this magnet, not just to other single people, but to people who were trying to adopt and also maybe going through infertility, which I had that story first, which led me to adopt. I always knew I wanted to be a mom. And people just started asking me because, some people knew when I started and when it actually happened, which was pretty quick. And I was very clear on one thing, which was if you are going to go down the adoption path, you cannot do it alone. And I'm very passionate about what I believe in. And I was very passionate about that piece of the journey. And I would look at the people in the eyes and say, if you do this, you have to work with my consultant because I'm not going to let you do it alone. And I'm also going to help you on the back end because I just went through it myself. So that's kind of where it started for me, is just helping people go through the process and giving my consultant a lot of money in the meantime.
yeah, yeah. And so when did you then, how long between going through the process and starting your consultant business? How long was that time frame?
2 years. My son was 2
Okay.
when I started officially,
Yeah.
and I started an LLC and I started charging for my services. He was 2 years old. I was in a job that I was miserable at. And I would work nights and weekends, maybe a lunch here and there. Nobody was, none the wiser. And it worked.
Yeah. That's really cool. And then how long before you started the podcast?
Oh, well, that came years later.
Yeah.
So I'm only 2 or 3 years in.
Yeah.
But then the next question should be, how long did you think about doing a podcast before you actually did the podcast? And I think I was scared of it for more years than I actually just did it. And mostly all the tech around it. Like I had no problem sitting on a Zoom call and recording, but it was like, then what do I do with it? And how do I do all the other stuff? And there are a lot of steps to
Yeah.
a podcast. Is it hard? No, it's not hard. It's time consuming. But I learned quickly what I needed on a budget, what I could get away with, but also sound good. So I'm still using the same microphone and the same camera and the same ring lights. And I got headphones and, that all sounds like a lot. It wasn't that much really. And I just started.
Yeah.
Asking people to let me interview them. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What I really love about your show is, well, two things specifically. You always say that if someone wants just like the fluffy stories or not like the
Mm,
truth, they'll go listen to another podcast. So
yeah.
yours is because having gone through the experience of adoption, you know what the parents need to hear. And the other thing is, you're not just telling stories, you're giving
Yeah.
real advice for the adoptive parents. So,
Yeah.
whether they work with you or not, they're learning from you and you're a part of their adoption story, which I think is so cool.
It is really cool. And, that passion I was telling you about at the beginning, when I would tell my friends they can't do it alone, which is
Hmm.
still something I really believe in, I think that passion really comes through with everything I do. And I am not a fluffy person. I'm a tell it like it is person. I'm a tell the truth person. And it gets me in a lot of trouble sometimes because I don't always use the right words to tell people the things that I'm trying to convey. Number one, I think that makes for a fun podcast or live sometimes, not to be so polished. But also, I was very clear when I started podcasting that there were already plenty of podcasts and plenty of social media pages that told people's stories. And those stories are really important. And they already existed. So I didn't want to be another platform to tell a story. I think the stories come out naturally in the way I interview, but it was really important to me that people leave with tactical advice that they could put to use or practice.
Totally. And I think that, of course, makes people know that you're the go-to person in this space. If they really want to go through this process and adopt a child, like they're not looking for just stories.
Yeah.
They're looking for that advice. Was there a specific thing that got you from the I want to start a podcast to actually launching it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think number one, I think I was getting embarrassed and sick of hearing me tell my team that, okay, this is a goal for this year and then not doing it. And this is a goal for this year and then not doing it. First of all, I never shy away from a goal. If I have a goal and it's something I really want to do, and I really wanted to do it, I finally just said, okay, this is ridiculous. Practice what you preach, which is progress, not perfection. And really, it only takes 1, 2, or 3 times before you're like, oh, I got this. You do have to have people to help you. I guess you don't. I could have bootlegged it and did it all myself. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I know even for the first episode, I wanted it at a certain caliber, so I do have a team. None of us knew how to do a podcast, but we figured it out. And there's so many people online that you can follow, so many influencers. And that's what I did. I just started taking all these free courses, really, to learn. I remember I took a free course online, and it was extensive. I can't remember. I do know. Can I mention who?
Yeah, of course.
I think it was Captivate.
Oh, yeah.
Is that? Yeah, and I think they might be based out of the UK. I'm not sure. But it gave me so much step-by-step information, which is also how I like to have a podcast.
Right.
This wasn't a podcast, but it was a free course. I wrote down every single step, and then I just started following it. And I shared it with my team, and I said, okay, let's figure this out. I don't think it's hard. I think it's just a little bit time-consuming.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and imagine if you didn't start it, because you have a great amount of downloads. People are listening every week, whether it's your clients going through the process or people curious about it. And you cover a lot of different topics, some taboo topics, some, with some mental health topics, really all across the board. Do you have any stories you can share from what the podcast has done, or maybe a listener story?
Well, one thing I will say, and it's kind of going back to what I was just talking about, is my first 3 episodes, I think, are still the most downloaded episodes. And I'm sure the podcast has gotten better since then, but it just goes to show that's not what people are tuning in for. They're tuning in because they have an interest in something. So I wanted to throw that out. I'm sure a story will come out as we go. One funny story I have was I mentioned in some podcast that an expectant mom, when asking for specific kind of families, were asking for families with tattoos. Because you just never know what's gonna identify with a birth mom. And so I remember one of my comments. I don't get a ton of comments on my podcast, but I did get one comment that said, "This really surprises me as somebody with a tattoo. I would have never thought that." that. But that speaks to exactly the type of detail that I'm trying to get across to people. And it just that little teeny bit of information that I said caught their attention. So that comes up when you say that. But also in my conversations with clients and my conversations with people just inquiring about our services, a lot of times people will say, I've listened to every one of your podcasts. And I think to myself, and this is the same with social media, really? Would you please just give me a thumbs up or a comment or tell me you're out there so I don't feel like I'm just speaking to the great abyss? So I think with podcasting, with social, and you can get data, obviously, but people are watching you and people are listening to you even when you don't think they are. And in my business, it's not a $27 product. We're talking thousands of dollars. If I can reach one person, either that becomes a client, which ultimately, I would love my podcast to do that, but also a client who's already a paying client that took something from it, that they learned how to be a better adoptive parent by listening to the podcast. I'm trying to do both. I'm really trying to reach people to make a difference and also to grow my business. Let's be real.
Of course.
So I want to be an authority and I want to show people that, build the trust factor. And I think it does that.
It definitely does do that. I'm wondering too about the guests that you have on, because you have adoptees, like I said, people who are mental health therapists, you have a lot of different stories on there.
Yeah.
And I imagine they don't always get to tell their story, especially the adoptees or the adoptive parents. They don't always get to tell their story in a way that can help others. I'm sure, just like you, a bunch of people are asking them questions, and I'm curious how they feel sharing their stories on your show.
I have the most generous group of guests. And I always ask, is there anything off limits that you don't want to talk about? I can think of one out of my 100 and whatever episodes I have. Some of those are solo episodes, but most people are like, if I can be vulnerable and share something that I experienced to help one person, they're willing to do it. And I think most people who are willing to be on a podcast are really willing to make themselves vulnerable in hopes of reaching one person. So most people are not off limits. I happen to send my questions ahead of time because it is such a sensitive area.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure either I'm not framing something in the wrong way, because I learn every day from the people I talk to, or that I'm not asking a question that makes them really uncomfortable. And I have only been met with, wow, these are great questions, or these are questions I've never thought of, or these are questions I've never gotten. So that's my goal.
Yeah.
Is to ask them in ways that people haven't heard it before.
That's such an important part of podcasting, because if we're interviewing and the same person is telling the same story on just different shows, it's not going to be as valuable. But I think that's really cool that your guests are so excited to share their stories. And it does feel like a community that you're building through your podcast and that you're working with, because once the families go through adoption and go home with their child, like, it's not like you don't talk to them anymore, right? You still have relationships with them.
Every group of people needs their tribe, right? You don't want to live life in the world as the only one of anything and be paving the way for everybody behind you all the time. In some instances, it's great, and I love paving the way wherever I can. And we all need a community to go and make sure you're you're normal, or get advice from the people ahead of you. I mean, I always joke that I couldn't be a parent without other parents before me because most of my parenting has not been of my own decision. It's been what other people tell me has worked for them. I'm like, great, works for you, works for
Yep.
me. And everybody uses community different, but adoptive parenting in some ways is like every other parenting, whatever advice. And it's also very nuanced. And if
Yeah.
you don't know how to parent your adopted child in a way that will make a difference for them and not make them hate you later on in life or resent you or feel more confident in their identity. I mean, there are some common themes in adoption, and you have to be willing to do the work and to listen to the conversations. It's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah. In your show, what are some topics that you love talking about? And what do you think your audience loves hearing?
I mean, I love talking about the things that nobody else will talk about or that everybody else will be a hater about. I like to try to bring a different light to things, and then makes people think all sorts of ways about me, I'm sure, and that's okay. I am not one to hop on any social media bandwagon. I watch and I listen, and then I make my own opinions about things based on the research and the conversations that I have, asking the questions that nobody else is asking. And I like to bring those to light. I like to talk about the more taboo stuff. I just did an episode on, well, what if I smoke pot every day in a state that it's legal? Well, people aren't talking about that out loud, but it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or, maybe somebody doesn't want to admit that I got a DUI when I was a teenager. Is this going to come up now and haunt me? And I don't even want to bring it up because if I bring it up, maybe it brings it to their attention. So I try to go under, again, it's the surface conversation that I hate. I
Yeah.
try to get under the surface and get messy.
Yeah. Because if no one's asking those questions, that might stop someone from adopting or going through the process
It
or
might.
getting rejected or something if they're keeping those details to themselves. I thought that episode was really interesting and
Yeah.
insightful because that's the truth of the society that we're in now.
Yeah.
It's not like this perfect world that we live in, right? Like
Right.
things happen to us. And no, I thought that was a really cool episode for your listeners to have
Thanks.
and just use as a resource and kind of feel that security if
Yeah.
they are going through through the adoption process and having those
Mm-hmm.
questions. So,
And I also want to be a resource for people to feel comfortable asking those questions.
mhm.
Like if they don't want to go to the agency or to an attorney to find out those answers, I want to be that resource for them.
Yeah. If you can think of it, what do you think is the most surprising thing you've learned from your podcast?
But one thing, it doesn't have to do with the guest,
Mhm.
is that I think I'm good at it.
You are.
And I really like doing it. Does that surprise me? A little bit. A little bit. I don't know. Another thing that surprises me is how difficult it is to reach an audience.
Mhm.
That's the most difficult part about a podcast is getting people to listen, right? Every interview I have with a guest, I leave going, "Oh my God, that was my favorite conversation." And then the next one, I feel the same way. So yeah, do I say that all the time? I do, but it's true. They just I just am so amazed at how raw and honest people are.
Yeah.
I'm also surprised every time that I figure out how to tap into that because they wouldn't go there unless I, as the interviewer, tapped into it and
Yeah.
asked it the right way or gave them permission to.
Yeah.
there's a safe space that you have to create within your podcast realm. Actually, I did have one big surprise, and it kind of pissed me off. I had an amazing, deep, raw conversation with someone who's out there on social in that way. And somehow I must have hit a nerve. She had all the questions in advance. We connected. We had this amazing conversation, only to have her say afterwards, "Yeah, I don't want that to air. Please don't air it." And I was like, "What? You
Oh my
already signed the
gosh.
release.
Right.
I just spent all this time prepping."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Please delete it." I'm like, "Well, can I come back to you later? Maybe." "No."
Wow.
Oh,
Interesting.
okay. I don't know.
It's
Have you ever had that happen?
not in my podcast, but I work with a client who is a memoirist and she interviews people about their
Mm-hmm.
memoirs and they're like putting it all out on the page and then she'll ask them questions about it and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about that. She's like, you wrote about this, like it's out there. And so same thing. It's
Yeah.
interesting when guests will do that and
Mm-hmm.
it's it's like I would love to know their thought process of that too, you know?
I mean,
So,
it's fear, right? It's fear
yeah.
of being seen
hmm
and what that would mean to them.
So, as you've gone through your business for the past 13 years,
Yeah.
have you seen the world of adoption change?
Oh, yes, in
Mm.
so many ways. Let me count the ways. I mean, the cost,
Mm.
the number of adoptions. The cost is going way up, the number is going way down.
Interesting.
I mean, COVID just kind of shook it all up.
Yeah.
Single women used to have it's just so much. It's so much. Women used to adopt a lot quicker. Everything used to happen a lot quicker because there were so many adoptions happening. Also, just in my world as a consultant, I for the longest time was one of like 5 in the United States, and now there's like 17 of us. So that changed. People understand what a consultant is more and more. It isn't, more agencies lean on consultants and see us as a resource, whereas they didn't before. So that conversation has changed. Laws have changed around the country. Just a lot has changed.
Yeah. And
Openness, I'll say that too, the
mm,
openness, because this always surprises people. You know, the outside world who doesn't know anything adoption might say, "Well, aren't you afraid to have an open relationship? Or does your child know their quote unquote real mother?" And by the way, I'm as real as they come.
right, right.
But people are surprised at the level of openness that we have with our child's birth family. And that has become a lot more the norm.
Yeah.
Like having visits in person after the adoption has become way more the norm than it used to be. It used to be maybe exchanging letters and pictures through the agency that you adopt from. That still exists a little bit, but moms asking you to commit to a yearly visit before adopting is way more common. And it benefits everyone, really, when you
Hmm.
can do that.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
That's really cool. And,
it's
those are things I
awesome.
wouldn't know unless I was listening to your podcast or going through the experience
Yeah.
myself. And so, as you think about the future of the Adoption Roadmap
Mhm.
podcast, do you envision topics changing or guests changing with the changing industry that you're in? Or do you
Hmm.
think some things always remain the same?
Some things always remain the same, specifically around transracial adoption, identity, drug exposure, openness,
Hmm.
and then certain things in the process, like the home study, which is the first step in the process that legally approves you. Those things will always be in adoption. The climate is going to change. The cost is going to keep going up and down. Laws change all the time. So yeah, I hope that there'll be different conversations instead of just, regurgitating the same conversations with different people. And I'm always trying to think of different angles and different things that other people aren't talking about. So I hope so, but I think that there's also a standard that always stays the same. And it's not so bad to have the same type of topic over and over again, because sometimes one thing I like to say is you need to hear it 3 times before you believe it. And so if I can have 3 different people coming from 3 different angles talking about the same topic, that might help somebody.
Yeah. I also find that I can say something 100 times and then I can have someone on my podcast and they can say the same thing and that'll resonate with the listener. It's just like sometimes it's just the way you're saying it, or like you said, hearing it multiple times is helpful. So that's really interesting. So before we get into my rapid fire questions, I'd love for you to
We're
tell us
already there?
I'd love to hear a little bit more about the types of clients that you work with, because you work with same-sex couples, single adoptive parents, and tell us
All
more.
different colors,
Yeah.
all different ages. I my if I look at all the stats on everything I put out there, my people are typically females between the ages of 35 to 45.
Okay.
But no, we really do work with any hopeful parent who is ready to open up their hearts and open up their minds to adoption. Whether you're a couple, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're single, whether you're gay, whether you're lesbian, whether you're a he, she, or they, them, or whoever you are, if adoption is on your heart and you need help navigating that process, and you do, if that wasn't clear, then we will work with you. I mean, there's certain people that maybe won't be a good fit, but we'll be honest about that too.
Yeah, and that's important. And so you help them with the whole process, start to finish.
Start to finish. And I will say, we work with anyone across the entire United States. We only work with domestic adoption inside the United States. We do not do foster to adopt. A little bit, but not.
Sure.
We don't start that way with anyone. And we also don't do international. Those have different paths.
Yeah, I would imagine that those would be very different, but that's cool how many different people that you work with and how much and how many adoptions have you helped facilitate?
Over 500. I don't know
my
what the
gosh.
number is now, but I think it was last year, the beginning of this year, that we reached 500. And for the first 3 years that I was in this business, I was also working another full-time job. So I was only working part-time. So I very slowly built, 1 client and then 3 clients. I think, my first year I made $8,000 total. And I thought, wow, I made it.
Yeah.
And, I've slowly built, and obviously now I've been doing it full-time for a long time now, but yeah. 500.
Do you ever think about that and you're like, that's so many?
It's wild. I don't really look at anybody's feed on social anymore except for my clients and past clients.
Yeah.
Those are the only people that are on my feed.
Yeah.
Which I love. But no, I think we get jaded by the number because we're in it every day. And it's like, okay, this many, now this many, now this many, that it never, sometimes you really have to stop and take a step back and say, wow, you have impacted a lot of families. And it's not just me alone. I have an amazing team.
Right. Well, I think that's incredible. And I'm thinking about 500 families that are just full of love because of you. And that's just so cool. I can't even imagine how that would feel. So I hope that you do take the time to
thank you.
really think about that, because that, I'm sure when you were going through that adoption process, that's what you want. You wanted a child, and how you felt is how you made 500 people feel. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'll
So
never
cool.
forget my consultant who helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they still working?
She just retired,
Oh, cool. Okay.
but the company still exists.
Nice. Nice. And then you
Yeah.
have a sister company, Our Chosen Child. Do you want to
Yes,
touch on
thank
that a
you.
little bit?
Sure. So, RG Adoption Consulting, we help families navigate the whole process of adoption. One of the steps in our adoption roadmap, which is the model that I use for everything, and it's the name of the podcast
Podcast.
and the name of my book and all of that. One of the steps in the adoption roadmap is to develop your adoption profile or your storybook. It's the storybook that tells an expectant parent who's choosing who she wants to parent about you. So, you know, you can imagine it like Shutterfly. So that's what. So Our Chosen Child is kind of the marketing arm of adoption. We work with families to create their profile. We work with agencies to put their families on their website. We help put together videos. So anything that can help market the agency and the families is what that company does.
Very cool. Yeah, I wanted you to share about both of those just because
Thank you.
people can now see how intertwined the businesses, the sister business, and the podcast, they're all working
Yes.
towards the same mission. Um, Whenever I work with clients or someone reaches out to me and they're like, the podcast is not working for me, things are not like it's because it doesn't have that intertwined feeling or that. And so that's what you have. And so I think it's
Yeah.
cool for someone to see the whole picture of the business and how the podcast just like perfectly fits in.
Thank you. I just don't have the t-shirt yet
That'll be next. That'll be next.
to go. The merch.
Yes.
That's what they call it now. The merch.
Cool. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. I've been loving this
All
conversation
right.
so
Here we
far.
go.
My first one is, where do you listen to your podcasts?
In my car and in the shower mostly.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a big car listener too.
Yeah.
So when you're listening to podcasts, do you have any pet peeves?
Yeah. When I have to turn the volume up and then I have to turn the volume down and then I have to turn the volume up. And I also don't like really long commercial breaks or intros of commercials before I actually get to the episode.
I agree with you. I'm good with commercial breaks, but like if it's longer than a few minutes, like oh my goodness.
Oh, and I've been known to go check out all the places,
Yeah.
that my
Right.
favorite podcasters, and I do love really good music, and I love when I get to know the music because I'm like, I can hum some of, like some are in my head right now.
Okay, so my next question is, what are some podcasts that you recommend?
Okay, lately I'm all about the AI. So I've been listening to a lot of AI Social Media Examiner, and they have an AI version, and I think there's one called AI Queens. And I'm going to talk kind of outside of my own industry. I'll give a shout out to my friend and somebody who was on the podcast, Michelle Madrid. She has one called Most Myself, and she's just a beautiful soul, and I love that one.
Very cool. Very cool. You reminded me of a question that I haven't asked anyone in so long, but I want to ask you.
Okay.
This used to be part of my rapid fire questions, and I don't know why I stopped asking it. But if you were to have a podcast not in your niche, what would it be about?
Gosh. Single parenting or just going through life without a partner. It could be about finances, trying to
Yes.
trying to figure all that out. I don't know. There's so much. Like,
Yeah.
I guess it could be called Life, Not What I Ever Imagined.
There we go.
Ooh,
There
that
we
would
go.
be
I
good.
like it.
I'll bet you a lot of people could relate to that.
Oh, for sure. You would have a lot of cool guests on there too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Okay, 2 last questions for you. What is one thing you wish more people knew about podcasting?
That's a hard one for me. I think it might be what I said at the beginning, which is the reach is really not easy. You could have the best podcast in the world, but the reviews that we ask people to leave and the ratings, I think are the only way to expand that reach. And it's so, so important. So if you're a podcast listener, and you are because you're listening to this now, first of all, give Hayleigh a rating and review, please.
Thank you.
And you can do the same for the Adoption Roadmap podcast, because it's the only way we can get more listeners. And I love podcasting so much that I hope more people will listen.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you. Last question I have for you is, what is the most surprising thing that podcasting has taught you about yourself?
That all of those questions that I asked my whole life to people that maybe didn't like all my questions or maybe did, I don't know, they were all in training for being a great podcaster. And asking questions is, you should always ask questions. You should always ask questions. And if you keep asking questions, first of all, people love to be asked about themselves. And everybody wants to connect on some level. And I think podcasting is such a great way to do that. And finally, the things that I love so much, which is connecting others, learning more about people's stories, and just learning. I'm an avid learner of just life, and I can learn from people so much as a podcaster, and I've loved that piece of it too.
Oh, I love that answer. That's so good. Rebecca, where can people come and connect with you?
IG at RG Adoption, Our Chosen Child. I'm on Facebook. You can go to our websites.
Okay.
You can listen to the podcast.
Yes, definitely that. Cool. Well, I will put all of those in the show notes, and just thank you so much for not only being on the show today, but also trusting me with your podcast. I'm loving it. I'm having so much fun with it and learning a ton on the way.
And I love having you on my team. You make things a lot easier. So thank you.
That is my number one goal.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope this episode gave you something to think about, or better yet, something to take action on. If you have questions about anything we talked about today, or if there's a topic you'd love to hear on the show, please shoot me an email at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com. I read every single email. And don't forget, you can find all the resources from today's episode in the show notes, including links to connect with me and take the next step in your adoption journey. If you haven't already yet, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a 5-star review. It helps more than you know. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week. Bye-bye.